The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, my name is Jillian Schaefer and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Extend the Value of Your Sage ERP with DocLink, presented by Perry-Lynn Silkwood and Mark Wickbeck of Alltech. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. To submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar. We will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. We are recording this presentation and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees as well as to those who registered but were not able to attend. Please take a moment during the presentation to answer our 3 poll questions and after the presentation to answer our 1 survey question. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend our webinar. We're here to help get the most out of your software solutions and help you find an easier way to run your business by providing you software and industry knowledge, tools, and support whenever you need it. We've invited Alltech here today because they are the industry experts on document management. So whether you're here doing research for a new solution or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions throughout the webinar. Lastly, as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels, so we encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Perry-Lynn.
Oh, good morning. Thank you very much. Let me make sure that I can share my screen correctly. Bear with me one moment. All right, we should be live now. All right, so thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and really glad to be here and talk all about AP automation with an infusion of job costs today. So that's really what we've got on the plate. But I want to talk for a moment about digital transformation. It is indeed a bit of a buzzword that we're hearing a lot of today, and it continues to be a crucial consideration for organizations, especially in this climate of trying to remain competitive, grow your business, and just stay alive in these ever-changing times. So what we're seeing is that within this climate, it's even more important to have agile access to documents and lean business processes to help keep you focused on the key goals of your organizations. So today, we're going to cover DocLink, which is an enterprise-wide document management and workflow automation tool set that can really help organizations keep your eyes on the prize and covering some of these core areas. So here's a little bit of the roadmap on what we want to cover today. These are really some of the top business goals that we're seeing brought to us and what DocLink covers in the marketplace. So number one, we want to cover today how simple it is to get easy access to documents when you're using the DocLink application. We also want to go into the whole concept behind business process automation and routing documents through not only an approval process, but what does it mean to be able to code that invoice and integrate with the job cost module in Sage. We'll talk again about approvals. Automated matching continues to come up when we're talking about automatically matching the invoice not only to the receiving transaction, but also the purchase order as well that's in the system. And then we'll also talk about beyond AP, because what we're covering here today, the basic concepts can be used in other areas of the organization as well. All right, so here's our focus. And you know what, I'm going to ask a poll in a moment because I want to see how many of you today are actually using requisitions or purchase orders. Remember, DocLink is an enterprise-wide solution. It can indeed play in all of these different scenarios. We're going to focus mostly today on the invoice side of things and a little bit on the matching side, but just know that if producing a requisition and having that go through an approval process is important to you, DocLink can play there. If we want to not only capture the purchase order, but send the purchase order out to vendors along with supporting documents, that's another application that we can take within DocLink. But let's first cover kind of what's going on in your minds today. So we're going to start a poll, and this poll is going to kind of just give you an opportunity to communicate back to us. So let us know, what's important to you? Is the most critical thing about invoice approvals and maybe collapsing the time it takes to get an invoice through the approval process? It may be that matching is your biggest concern, or job cost integration, which is kind of, I think, what maybe pulled people in today. Could be about eliminating data entry, easier access to documents, or it could be everything. And then in that case, you can kind of put multiple answers down. But go ahead and you know, select which answer resonates most with you, and then we'll be able to, you know, kind of share what the results are. All right, so let's see, let's go back to SWK. Are we going to share the poll results?
Yes, so it looks like we have a 75% response rate for electronic invoice approvals, 50% for two-way and three-way matching, 50% for leveraging job cost integration, 75% for eliminating data entry, and 50% saying easier access to docs overall.
Data entry, and then what was the last one?
Easier access to docs overall was 50%.
Okay, so, and I think that because everyone is able to, you know, pick multiple answers, you know, that's where we have, you know, more than 100% as a total. But this is really interesting. So you're right, and this is exactly what I see when I'm working with companies as well, that most people are coming to say, hey, Perry Lynn, or PL is what people call me, I need to streamline the invoice approval process or collapse data entry because business is picking up and we need to grow without adding headcount. All right, well, you know what? We're going to cover it all today. So one last quick poll. Let's initiate the next one because I'm dying to know for everyone in the audience today, are you using requisitions? Or, and also, are you issuing purchase orders, whether it's within Sage or not? So it's PO or no PO, that is the question. And you get, you know, extra bonus points if you know who that fellow is on the right. So let's initiate this poll here. Okay, see that the poll is launched.
Yep, and we'll give that just a minute or two.
Okay. Do you know who the guy on the right is?
I think I have an idea, but I might need your clarification.
We'll wait and see if anyone else can kind of guess correctly. All right, how are we doing on those results? Do we have any synergy amongst requisitions? It's so interesting. For me, it kind of comes in peaks and valleys where we have like opportunities coming into us that are just non-PO related only, and then I'll get a trend of those that are PO, you know, based invoices and wanting to do the three-way matching. So I'm just curious to know what that kind of looks like here.
So we have 100% that said, do you issue purchase orders?
Oh, and they say yes. Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, then we'll definitely focus on some two-way and three-way matching. All right. So let's continue on. We're going to get into the demonstration portion of the presentation. And because at the end of the day, having documents in a centralized library for easy access is critical. Why? Because we don't want people having to ruffle through filing cabinets, especially in the climate of having a remote workforce. So search and retrieval is huge for organizations. It allows for you to have documents at your fingertips and very agile access, whether it's from a mobile device, you know, or from the web. And it really can kind of transcend not only AP automation, but you can use things like full text search in order to start looking for contracts and other kinds of things. So I've asked Mark to kind of show you a demonstration on just the power of search and retrieval. And so he's going to show you a couple different examples of having easy access to documents. So Mark, I would love for you to maybe share your screen and walk us through some samples that you have in your demo scenario there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do the little dance where we hand off our screen here.
You know what? I forgot to change. Hold on. That was me. So sorry. Okay, I'm clicking yes, and so now you should have control. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so we should be seeing my screen here, and we'll walk through some of those points that we were just on that PowerPoint slide. The first of which is just being able to search and retrieve documents, right? So we mentioned in that poll that finding documents easily was important. Well, DocLink makes that super easy. In this case, we have an example where we want to search for a document, in this case, an invoice with a job number on it. What I've done is just save that search. So this is a feature in DocLink where if we do searches all the time, we can build that query in this query panel here. We can save that search off to the left-hand side, one click, and then reutilize that search again and again and again, right? So we don't have to keep building it. We can utilize that to our advantage. And we can search on companies, we can search on document types, and we can search on properties as well. If I scroll down here, we can see the property that I'm searching on. In this case, it's a job number EEC 2140, right? That property value just gives meaning to that document, allows DocLink to find that property value. So we can go ahead and click on search, and DocLink finds that document or documents that it locates, right? In this case, we have an invoice with EEC 2140 on it. Pretty easy, right? This is taking the place of going to your filing cabinet, finding your document or documents that may exist in the right spot or not, flipping through all the different vanilla folders that probably exist in that physical filing cabinet to maybe find your document. And that takes a lot of time, right? Because we're going to our filing cabinet, we're going back to our seat, all that good stuff. It takes a while to do that. DocLink finds that document for us in a split second. Now we can expand this and we can say, well, what if I want to find all documents in the system with job number EEC 2140? Great, well, we can do that as well. In this case, it's finding some purchase orders, invoices, receiving documents, backup documents. So a grouping of documents. Think how you staple documents in the physical world today. DocLink is digitally stapling all those documents and finding them as a packet of documents. We can go ahead and click on search. We can go ahead and multi-select those documents and view them, retrieve them all in the same window here. If I go ahead and tile vertically, we can bring all those documents up in the same window. You'll notice all the property values we call index data, keywords, metadata, if you will. All those values live on the right-hand side, and there's our job number down in the bottom right-hand corner, along with our job cost code, job description code, really anything that you want as part of that document that gives meaning to the documents or documents are available. It doesn't really have to just be accounts payable documents. We can extend documents to any type of document. We say a lot internally, a document is a document is a document. And an AP document is low-hanging fruit. We typically start there, but really any document that you would want to take digital from your physical filing cabinet can be housed securely in DocLink to give access to any and all users in your organization. It could be, Perilyn mentioned, contracts, HR documents, purchase order, AP, AR, you name it, those documents can be stored effectively into DocLink. Now there's other ways to find and retrieve documents within DocLink as well. What I'm going to do is just quickly jump over to Sage really quick, and we'll actually open the right window here. We're going to go to vendor maintenance, and what we're going to do is do this side-by-side process where we want to find it. We're in Sage. We live and breathe in Sage all day long, and we want to view a document that we find interesting based on the transaction that we're in. In this case, we're in the vendor maintenance screen, and I want to find all documents in DocLink related to this vendor, all climate maintenance. Without DocLink, this could be going to your filing cabinet or going to a folder structure in Windows or kind of behind the scenes. Click through a bunch of documents. Maybe we found them, maybe not. Who knows, right? In DocLink, it's a single click. We go to all climate maintenance. DocLink goes and says, find everything with vendor number equal to ALLCLIM. We go ahead and click the View Documents button, and DocLink goes out and recalls it for us. We can see a couple invoices, a couple checks, all related to all climate maintenance. If we go back, we can say, let's do the exact same thing for American leak detection. We go ahead and click that View Documents button. DocLink goes out and finds the exact same thing. Now it's populating a bunch of different documents, so it takes a little bit more time, but now we can see invoices, backup documents, contracts, whatever we want. It searches it and finds everything related to that particular vendor number. So you can see, as we kind of expand this out, from a couple documents, maybe one document, a handful, documents from the beginning of time. DocLink will be able to find it all based on the search criteria. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Perry Lynn here. I'm going to stop showing to continue along with the rest of the presentation.
Excellent, thank you. There we go, and I see the show my screen button. Thank you very much. All right, so I thought maybe a picture, is worth 1,000 words. And so I thought, let's do this or that, and a nod to social media. But Mark talked a lot about storing documents in filing cabinets, and that's a traditional way that people do it. But of course today in a very agile and remote workforce, we want to have electronic access to documents, all driven by security. So there we go. Let's kind of open it up for a little bit of Q&A. So if there are any search and retrieval type questions that are on the top of your mind, you're welcome to use the chat feature. And I'm going to go ahead and open my chat just so I can kind of make sure I can see anything. So you're welcome to chat back to organizers and panelists. And we'll just wait for a moment and see if there are any questions that are coming through on easy access to documents and having the ability of searching from them right from within DocLink or right from within many, many of those Sage windows using that View Documents button. And that's what gets applied to those screens at the deployment of DocLink. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions come through, so just to kind of be respectful of our time together today, let's continue on. If something percolates up, we'll be able to address it at the tail end of the session today. A big question. So oftentimes when we start talking about, well, what's the power of DocLink and the power of having documents at your fingertips? One of the questions that comes up was, well, how did they get in there in the first place? And so we're not going to dive deep into all the different capture methodologies today, but just keep in your mind that documents come into your organization in different ways. Documents are produced in your organization in different ways. And one of the powers of DocLink is being able to use many different kinds of methodologies to capture documents in the most efficient way possible. So for instance, if the document is coming from Sage, there's an automatic process by which we can bring that document and the data into DocLink. Why? Because we want to be able to have all documents in one place for easy search and retrieval or reconciliation when we start getting into the matching process. And of course, if we have an invoice coming in, then Mark's going to show you a little bit about OCR today and the technology of, capturing that document and the data that is on that document as well. And that'll certainly address the issue that we talked about at the top of the hour, which is minimizing data entry. All right. So let's get into one of the hot topics that you had voted on at the top of the hour, and that is all about the approvals. So 75% are saying, hey, listen, I really have some issues surrounding the approval process. And this can look like different things for different organizations, but one of which is a time issue. Not only a time issue, but time equals money, and that's usually about missing out on either early P discounts or incurring late fees because you can't get that invoice through the approval process, or it's simply painful, and might cause a lot of rework. So when we talk about approvals in DocLink, we often are going to hear the word workflow, because within the DocLink module of workflow, that's where all the approvals and all this really cool functionality exists. So let's take a look at AP automation kind of in a fuller way. And we're going to kind of take you through a little bit of this, what you're seeing on the screen. We might capture an invoice and show you a little bit about the power of OCR, take a look at what it means to code an invoice and a peek at that job cost integration that we've been talking about, what it means to do matching and approvals, and then let's just take it all the way through. So Mark, here again, I'm going to change presenter. Let me click the right button. Okay. I have changed presenters, so I would invite you to share your screen and let's take a look at the whole idea behind AP automation and workflow.
Excellent, perfect. Yeah, so we're gonna start with that onboarding process. So whether or not your documents come in and they're paper, We need to scan them to make them digital. They may come in via email, so we can utilize some services to pull those documents directly through into an OCR engine, which is going to do a lot of the manual data entry for you. Either way, the things are a lot quicker to process documents through when we're not hand keying them in. Think of OCR and the idea of optical character recognition is that we can remove that the data that you typically enter into the ERP. That really starts with those documents coming in, and what we see here, just some data points, some dashboards that help users to understand, documents flowing through the system, how many, who's working them, what are their rates from processing documents. So you can get a high-level overview from a manager's perspective on what's being done through the exception handling process. We can see some other reports and metrics here that you can get some statistics on dashboards throughout OCR, just to give you ideas there. We're going to focus on this tab called data verification. When a document like an invoice comes in from the outside world for the first time, the first thing we're going to do is classify that document. We can see that OCR and Smart Capture OCR can do a lot of different things: sales order automation, packing slips, check payments with matching to OpenAR, and then on the AP invoice side. We're going to focus on the AP invoice side. That's the easy way of getting these documents in quickly. And DocLink's going to classify those. Is it an invoice? Is it a blank piece of paper? Is it something else miscellaneous we don't need to touch? And it will throw it. And really just deal with the important documents. What's also important to know here is this is an exception handling kind of a view of the document. So a lot of the times we never even see this because it's such a good quality document that gets processed all the way through. Data extraction is handled 100% with 100% confidence. The system doesn't even need to say, I need a human here for exceptions. It'll pass right through. That means we can streamline those documents from the very beginning to an approval process and then import that into the ERP for syncing. But just a quick look on what the system is doing behind the scenes. A couple examples here, what we would do from an exception handling process if it didn't quite grab all that data. It's really just a point and click type of a system. So in this case, we grabbed the date automatically, we grabbed the PO number automatically, and the total amount due automatically. In this case, this is a brand new vendor in the system. So what we need to do is we vendor validate with the Sage vendor card data. The very first thing we go back into Sage, we say, is this a valid vendor? In this case, it's not. Philips is the first time we've seen that a document template, so we need to classify it as a new vendor. We point and click to vendor Philips Lighting Electronics NA, and we've grabbed that vendor data on there. Because of that, it didn't grab the reference number, so we can train it on where that document number would live on this Philips template, point and click to reference number, and we're pretty much done. The last thing we do is we train it to say, hey, there's no tax or shipping and handling, so we auto-calculate the subtotal, and now we're done, right? So from the very beginning of the process, this is the data that you would normally enter into the Sage 100 invoice data entry screen. It's a quick point and click to fill in the data that we want. The system says, great, you have now officially gotten all the data we want, and it puts a green checkbox there for us to let us know that. That's pretty much the majority of the most manual work we ever have to do here, because over time, the system is learning. Every point and click we do, every new document that it sees, it's going to learn all those data points. We do not have to template these. This is the most manual work you'd ever have to do in the system, and it learns over time. So presumably the next time we see Philips Electronics, the system's going to know it. It's going to pluck out all the data from the correct spots. We may not even see that document come through again. So that's OCR in a nutshell. And then really the next step is that we want to push that into a workflow process to do some approval handling, some geocoding on that document, three-way match automation, and then all that's handled within the DocLink workflow. Workflow just means your business process, so moving a document from point A to point B, that's workflow in general. If you move a document to someone else's desk, you're doing the workflow process. That's just what we call it in DocLink. If we take an example of being able to geocode that data from data in Sage, DocLink can do that seamlessly. all the data, and this is part of the integration and the two-way sync of data from Sage into DocLink and DocLink into Sage. We can geocode that document with information. All the header information is filled in for us because OCR gave it to us. All we need to focus on is the detail information. We can see company account code data, and if we click on the magnifying glass, a lot of that information from the geocodes come directly over from Sage, so we can geocode it before we move that document into an approval process. We can update, modify, change, add, delete property values like job number, description, job type, company codes, and add that data onto that document. So we can grab job number, description, cost code. All that stuff is coming from Sage. It always lives in Sage, but we can pull that into DocLink so we can easily code and give meaning to that document for that next step in the process. I'm going to stamp this document, and basically we're burning the data onto that document as an audit trail. This is also the data that DocLink uses to import all this information into Sage 100 in a batch when it's ready to go after approval. So we geocode it, all that data lives and it's permanently burned onto the document, as we can see it there. The next step we do is click on auto route. DocLink takes it from there. It says, let's look at key points on the document. It could be a total amount. It could be the job number. It could be the geocode or a segment of the geocode that determines where the document goes next. DocLink analyzes that document and the metadata on it, and it sends it to the correct person. We're going to stay here for a moment. We're going to discard this and go back to our workflow to talk about quickly the three-way match automation process. What DocLink's going to do when a document comes in with a PO number on it, it's going to say, okay, let's go back to the PO data, let's go back to the receiving data, and then it's going to make a decision. It's going to say, is this a match based on certain criteria, thresholds, and different data points on that document? If it finds a match to say, hey, we have one line of the PO, we've received that PO, that maybe some items for inventory, and now we're getting billed for it, DocLink is going to make a decision to say, based on that criteria, did it match or did it not? And you can see kind of behind the scenes, without that automation, there's our invoice with our order number up top there, ending in 25. It automatically pulls that PO document and the packing slips related to that PO, and then it will pull all that information in for us. At this point, it makes the decision and says, yes, this has been matched, so it puts it into the PO match status. If not, we can see there's a mismatch discrepancy status. We can utilize this and say, you know, why was it discrepancy? Why was it mismatched? There might be certain reasons like a short ship situation, an overbilling of the invoice, or no PO existed to begin with. And so it'll make those determinations and put it into the right status for us. Now, if we're dealing with an approval process, let's say, hey, this was a discrepancy, so it didn't match quite right. But we can come in here, we can say, you know what, there was a reason for it, that it didn't mismatch, no problem, we're going to approve and pay this invoice anyway. So as a user, we can come in here and say, I want to approve this document to overwrite the discrepancy, and we can say, yes, we approve it, or no, we don't approve this, and we go back and we route it back to denied. We can move that document in and out of different workflow statuses to determine where the document goes next. We can also add informational notes on this. Maybe this just requires a please review note on the document. We can also add a sticky note. We can move this sticky note throughout the document however you see fit. So lots of different exception handling processes, viewing the document, the automated PO matching process, discrepancy handling, to move that document throughout the workflow, determining what needs to happen next. And really, at the end of this process, right, and your process may be different than somebody else's process, and that's where we come in and we tweak the workflow process for you. But at the end of all this, we can manage that document within Sage as well, go back and say, okay, well, we took a look at vendor maintenance. What happens when we want to see all the documents related to a purchase order? We go back into the purchase order entry screen, we click on that View Documents button, and because DocLink is syncing everything between Sage and DocLink, it's going to make a connection between the two. You can click on that View Docs, and it's going to find everything related to that purchase order, right? Let's go ahead and discard this because it seems like it's stuck on that screen. We'll try that one more time to view documents. And maybe we're stuck. I'm not sure. Anyway, DocLink's going to find all those documents for us. One click, view docs to recall those. There are a handful of different screens where this works within Sage 100 into DocLink. Not just PO entry, vendor maintenance, the AP screens, purchase order screens, AR, sales order. There's now many document screens that DocLink will be able to find documents for you with a single click of the button within Sage 100. And for the most part, all the integrations that we link to, all the ERPs rather for integrations, DocLink works the exact same way. So regardless of what ERP you're using or whatever you move to, if you want to migrate away from whatever ERP, DocLink most likely has an integration for you, and it's going to work the exact same way. So you have the continuity there. All right, with that, I'm going to unshare my screen and pass things back to Perry Lynn to continue.
Thanks, Mark. Well done. And I really think it's about, asking yourselves the question, do you need to, streamline the process? What is it costing you to do business like you are today? So all of that becomes very relevant. Bear with me one moment while I share my screen. Can I get a confirmation, Mark? Are you seeing my screen?
I am. You're good.
You are. Okay, perfect. All right. So the big question is that do you want to continue on with manual business processes? You know the answer, right? They're paper intensive. It's time consuming. It's not scalable in your organization. Or do you want to move to DocLink and really enable your organization to have a very lean process and eliminate data entry and just allow your organization to meet all your strategic goals? So big questions, mostly rhetorical, but I think you get the big picture here. Just a brief moment. I know that we have about 30 minutes left, but we're going to finish up a little bit early today. But I thought I would open it up for just a little bit of Q&A here, so feel free to use your chat window. Maybe there's questions out there related to workflow. So we'll just give that a moment.
Perry Lynn, we did have one come in during the demo. It says, please show how to add non-PDF docs to a vendor or job.
Okay, so we're talking about just adding did you say non-PDF documents?
Correct.
Is that what okay, to a job? All right, so we're just talking about indexing. So Mark, do you want to just talk about that for now, or do you want to show it? What would make sense best for you?
Yeah, I think we can certainly show that. It's easy enough to quickly drop a document in and index it for sure.
Okay, well then you know what? With that in mind, I am going to reshare. Hold on one moment. I think I messed something up here. I am not seeing the same screen as I was before.
You're good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so what we have up here, now this isn't through OCR necessarily, but just a quick drag and drop into DocLink. And we talked at the very beginning, there's multiple ways to get documents into DocLink. This is one without the use of OCR, just to kind of give you a different perspective on what it would look like without using that. I have an invoice on screen here. So if we were to scan this document in, this is we're talking a non-PDF document. This is a TIFF image. We could drag and drop that right into DocLink, right? So that's our invoice. It's now uploaded into DocLink. We can double click on what we call My Drop Files, go to our last document here, and type the document as such. So what we do is give meaning to that document. We just say, here's our document type of best fit. We're looking on the right-hand panel. We're going to extend this out a little bit to give us more real estate. And we can do a couple things, right? We can provide meaning to that document to say, well, where is this coming from? What is this? In this case, it's an Apple invoice. We go search from our vendor code list and say, type in Apple, or in this case, point and click. By doing that, we can auto-select the vendor name along with the vendor code to speed up this process along anyway. This is the most manual it gets in DocLink. We're not utilizing automation or OCR. And even then, we're still making it very easy for users to type values in. Invoice number, I'm just looking on screen here and seeing invoice number is 17241. Type that value in and then tab to the next. DocLink says automatically, is this a duplicate or not? I've indexed this document many times in the system, so it always comes up as duplicate. DocLink is smart enough to realize, hey, by the vendor code and by the invoice number, there's already a document in DocLink, and so it tells us that immediately. Let's pretend like it's not a duplicate document. We're going to continue on. We can type the invoice date, or we can use the date picker to select it. We're going to type today's date, or just select it from a drop-down. Make it easy on us. And then our invoice amount, subtotal $4,500, type it in on the keypad, done. Right? So that's pretty much all we need. Click on save and enter it into DocLink. Again, that's as manual as it gets, and that is way easier than just putting a document into the filing cabinet and then losing it forever. We now can search and retrieve that document by any one of these properties. Invoice number 17241. We can find all documents related to where the invoice date is September 16th of 2021. All documents where invoice is above $1,000. All those are now searchable and retrievable aspects of the document that we can now find quickly and efficiently in a digital fashion, securely in the DocLink repository.
Thank you, Mark. We have a follow-up question to that question. Could it be a video file?
Absolutely. DocLink doesn't care what type of file it is. We saw a PDF to start. This is a TIFF image. It could be a JPEG. It could be an audio file, an MP4 file, CAD drawings. Any native file can live within DocLink, and DocLink keeps it as that native file. Some applications will change the file type and name to encrypt it. DocLink always keeps it as that file type. If you want to download it as, let's say, an Excel file, .xlsx, it's going to keep it as that file type, and you can update it, modify it, bring it back into DocLink, and just use it as its native file type. DocLink always does that.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Carolyn, I'll let you grab it back and continue.
All right, terrific, thank you. Are you able to see my screen okay on the Sage integration?
Sure.
Ah, perfect, thank you, appreciate that. So actually, I ask you if you can see it, but then I actually want you to address this, because
Right.
I think oftentimes, what happens is we're trying really hard to show so much, to everyone here in the audience, because we think that different things will resonate with different people. And one of the questions that I often get is, how deep is the integration with Sage? And Mark just showed you a piece that I think is really important, which is he showed you drilling into and just looking at, Sage information in order to apply index values. That's really important because it's no data entry. But Mark, I thought maybe it would be a good thing just to revisit a little bit about these kind of functional pieces, but what it means to organizations to have an application like DocLink that is integrated with Sage. Will you cover these pieces?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it boils down to is answering why you should care, right? You should, it showed you a lot of stuff about the technology, features, functionality. Why do you care, right? Ultimately, you care about saving time, saving money, processing documents quicker, doing more with less, doing things at home, since we're all kind of working remote, in office, hybrid model, right? So from the very beginning, OCR capture, why do you care? Basically, this boils down to, this is data that you no longer have to manually enter into the ERP. The first thing you do when you get an invoice is enter that data into the invoice data entry screen. And then what do we do with it? We try to maybe scan it, we attach it to an email to go send it off to someone to approve it, and it's gone, right? We don't have any clue where it went, so we could sit on that and we lose it for a month or two. Well, we have visibility into that. We do the data entry for you, and it's saved securely in DocLink. We don't lose sight of it. Workflow, automated matching. It takes a lot of time and effort to find POs and receiving documents related to a PO invoice comes in. So we can take it one step further from just paper documents, being able to go digital and do that visual match of documents. But we also see the automated matching which is going to save you time, increase accuracy, and saving time means saving money. Processing documents quicker, getting them through, moving on to something else. Workflow coding and the non-PO based invoices. Yeah, we can definitely do this in Sage, but we still have to deal with that document and moving that piece of paper to someone else to approve it. We kind of flip the process a little bit, bring that document using OCR capture, code that document, and then move it for approval routing. DocLink then can use that automation to easy route and approve that document. We can approve via mobile app, you can approve via email users. It's basically mindless. You can button click it and you're done. We don't want you being in DocLink constantly. We want you to be in and out. It's something that shouldn't be front and center constantly unless you need it. Approving those documents are now super simple. Automated import is really there to remove the duplicate data entry from this whole process. In a lot of cases, the quote-unquote integrations that other companies have still require you to duplicate the data entry because, well, they can extract it via OCR, but they have no way to enter that data into Sage. Well, the automated import of DocLink does that for you. No duplicate data entry, streamlined process, one entry point always forever. View documents, we touched upon this a little bit. You should care about this because it makes it super easy to find documents when you need them. You always have your documents at your fingertips based on the transaction you're looking at. And then syncing transactions, this is really a kind of an umbrella statement from everything we've talked about from point 1 to 5. DocLink is doing the hard work behind the scenes to find data that you care about. The purchase order data, vendor data, GL data, all of that's being synced from the ERP right into DocLink. DocLink's going right back and syncing that data into the ERP. Your ERP is your single source of truth. DocLink's not going to change that. It's really going to enhance the ERP to be able to find your documents quickly and automate processes throughout. That's really the point of DocLink, is really to fill the gaps in that the ERP just simply cannot do and do it quickly and efficiently. That's where we see the biggest bang for your buck within DocLink, enhancing the ERP and kind of touching on all the point 1 through 6 that we see on the screen here.
Oh, well done. I think that that's great. And I really loved what you said, especially about why do you care? Why is it important to organizations to actually do this? And one of the things that it keeps coming up for me is about, having companies really look at what are they doing today and what is the implication of that process. And I think generally what we find is that, there's going to be about 3 different buckets, if you will, of savings. And if you start looking at your processes critically, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot of true, tangible cost savings. And sometimes that's a hard dollar saving, sometimes it's soft dollar, but the soft dollar kind of comes into time savings. But then you could always say, well, does it then translate into a hard dollar if I'm able to no longer have to hire additional people to keep up with transactional volume? So it's just that there's a lot of possibilities with DocLink, and I think most people are usually getting a full return on investment in about the 6 to 12 months. It all depends on your processes and kind of the strength of your organization or the depth of it, but all of these are really available to you. And then a couple last screens here that I wanted to share. We've mostly covered accounts payable today, or that whole kind of procure to pay, touching on a little bit of here and there. But it's important to know that DocLink is not just this AP solution, and it really can be used across your organization wherever you're having kind of paper-based bottlenecks and challenges. So think broadly when you start thinking about where those paper-based bottlenecks are. And it may be that not only an accounts payable would benefit from using the application, but there are going to be other areas in the organization that would equally benefit. And the reason why is because DocLink really takes a look at the holistic process from the moment a document is either arriving or being created, all the way through, if you can see my mouse, right, all the way through the approval process, taking that document and transaction and importing it or updating Sage, and then presenting an opportunity to view those documents. So it's really critical that it's taking the entire life cycle, not just 1 or 2 steps in the process. Little note about deployment. There's so much chatter in the marketplace today, so just know that whatever your preference is, DocLink can support your particular deployment methodology. So whether you want an on-premise solution or something that is hosted, or your vision is going to the cloud and taking advantage all that the cloud has to offer, DocLink has a possibility for you there. Now let's wrap up our session today. I thought we would do one last poll, because I'm kind of curious to know about where are you in your evaluation of looking for a solution. So just kind of chat back with us or respond to the poll and let us know. Were you just simply trying to understand what's available in the marketplace or knowledge building? Maybe you were sent on a mission from your boss. He said, okay, it's time. We are now ready to start looking at solutions. Maybe you have and you personally know of an initiative in your own department or organization. And of course, if you want someone to contact you, you can always do that right away and reach out to your SWK representative, and they would be able to get in touch with us, and then we can go through what's called a discovery call. We sit down, via web, have a chat about what you're doing in all the various areas, where we think DocLink is going to fit. We could start crafting kind of some preliminary budgets so you understand what the investment level would be. And then, of course, we can gear up for a very specific product demonstration where we'll show you, how DocLink could work for your organization. All right, so I think at this moment in time, if there are any additional questions that need to be kind of flushed out, please feel free either to chat back to Jolene or, chat back here in the session and we can answer any questions that you might have today.
Thank you, Perry-Lynn. We'll now open it up for questions. If you have any questions, please enter them into the questions section of your GoToWebinar. And just a reminder, everyone, we do have subject matter experts here. This is a great opportunity to have your questions answered in real time. We did have a few questions come in during the presentation, Perry-Lynn. The first being, when an invoice comes in and has a preset approver attached, does AP still get a chance to review before invoice is forwarded to the approver, i.e. the invoice is by chance incorrect or the PO does not match?
Yes, all of that is possible. So you can set up rules in the system that would dictate where an invoice goes, whether you want that rule by a particular vendor, by a particular dollar amount, or if you want that invoice to travel through a multiple step approval process before coming back to AP. So it's it can be, right? It's your choice. You don't have to deploy rules, but they are available to you. So you would certainly be able to take advantage of that if that's a requirement.
And we have another. Does DocLink store/integrate with Sage vendor information? So if vendor information changes, those changes are picked up.
Yes, we do. But Mark, I want to have you answer that from a technical perspective and maybe just address how the systems are talking to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And what ends up happening is as part of the integration with DocLink, this is basically off-the-shelf stuff we've already made for you, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel or do any development work to do this. But for vendors specifically, we look at the vendor table in Sage. If there are vendors that are not active, because you have a multitude of vendors, if ones that are marked as inactive, those get marked as inactive within DocLink. And what we do is cache that information. So we just pull it into DocLink. Any changes that get made along the way, those get updated, right? So if you make a change to active, inactive, or if you change the default GL code that relates to that vendor as part of the vendor card, DocLink pulls that in, it updates it constantly. You can choose how often you want to update it. A lot of our clients go with every 15 minutes, every hour, every day. It just really depends on the need for the change in data. But yeah, it certainly is updated on a regular interval based on the vendor card in Sage.
Perfect. And we have one more. Can prior invoices already paid get added to the software and link back to Sage?
Yeah, and I can handle that one as well. Absolutely. So really, DocLink is linking to transactional data via property values. So you can link in a bunch of documents all at once if they're historical. If we put in the property values and link to those transactions, they will link automatically in DocLink. You don't have to go to the transaction, click the paperclip or attach button in Sage to get it linked in DocLink. DocLink works separately, a different way, where it just is linking via properties. So we could do a batch import of documents that are historical, and DocLink will still link to them in that fashion.
Wonderful. And that looks like all the questions we have, Perry Lynn and Mark. So give me one moment as I take back screen control and close the webinar. Perfect. Thank you so much, Perry Lynn and Mark, for your informative presentation, for taking the time to be here today. Thank you everyone for attending our webinar. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.